Hi, this is Ed in San Diego. Welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. This is a unit of globalbusinessnews.net. You should go and check it out. Today we continue the series with Ron Cooper. He's based in the East Coast in Maryland, about 90 minutes outside Washington, D.C., along the Chesapeake. Nice area. Ron and his wife Marty have been in business a very long time. They call it the Cooper Culture, and you should check it out, thecooperculture.com. He's an advisor. He's a trainer. He's an executive coach. He's a team builder. The inevitable conflicts develop, of course. We're humans. So how do you deal with conflicts in the workplaces or at home? That's an overriding theme of today's discussion with Ron Cooper. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you for being here. And I welcome your feedback. Use my email, editor global business news @gmail.com. I'll repeat that. Editor global business news @gmail.com. It'll get right to me. Thank you. And we're back with Ron Cooper. This is the Cooper Culture, and you should check it out. You'll be glad you did. It's thecooperculture.com. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Ed. It's great to be back with you. Ed, I want to continue our conversation on change. And Stephen Howard introduced that topic or had a very recent conversation with you. I want to continue this conversation. I'm going to address it at two levels. One is in the corporate level, but then also we'll finish up at the family level. And I want to address it from the standpoint that we're working with a person who, let's just say, is a hardliner. Nope, I don't support the change you want. Nothing seems right about it. And this person may be of the mindset that I'm going to go a little further than just not support it. I may vocally try to undermine what you're doing and so forth. Ed, I'm going to start out from the corporate perspective. And that is, I have, let's say I'm the CEO, COO, somebody that of the nature that I have recommended a change, and I've explained it to you and others. And most people, but maybe Ed, I'm just going to use you as a representative example. You're not on board with this, and you vehemently oppose whatever I'm changing. Make sure we put everything into context. This is legally, morally, ethically correct. The change I want to make. We, in my opinion, need to make the change because of maybe various environmental, cultural, community changes and so forth. I want to have a greater impact to our local community. But you, Ed, and I know this is not you personally, but you may be of the mindset, nope, I just cannot support whatever the change is. And I'm not focusing on anything in particular, but you just vehemently disagree with it. And you may or may not, based on your personality, tell me you do that you do not support the change. But let's just say that I at least discern, Ed, I just have a sense you're not really on board with us. And you and I have a conversation, and during this conversation, you either clearly say or I clearly discern, Ed, it seems to be more so that you are not just on board, that you might vocally disagree with me. You might try to undermine the change I'm trying to bring about. And I would ask you, Ed, am I hearing you? Am I discerning you correctly? And I know it's difficult to role play in this, but let's just say, Ed, that during our conversation, you say, "Yeah, Ron, that's I am just so deeply against the changes you want to make that I will verbally oppose you, and I'll just strenuously disagree with you inside the company." Ed, in that context, I'm going to do everything I can to work with you, but yet I'm going to be resolved. No, this is a change we need to make. I would ask you, well, Ed, is there anything I can do to make this change more agreeable, palatable with you? And you might, excuse me, you might suggest something that I say, Ed, I can't, no, I just cannot agree with what your thinking is. It appears, Ed, you and I are totally misaligned on this. Ed, does that seem right to you that no, I cannot institute the change you want to make, but I do believe the change I want to make is the right way to go. I appreciate your thoughts, Ed, but I just cannot go the direction you would like to go because, and I want to explain why it is I feel your suggested change is not the way to go. And I want to be very careful, Ed. I'm not maligning your character. I'm not saying that your thinking is wrong. I'm not saying that at all. And I want to make certain I don't make you feel that I'm maligning your character, but rather it's Ed, it just seems that maybe our values are misaligned. How would you respond to that, Ed? And I'm not asking you right now, but I think that's the context in which I would want to discuss differences. I do value your opinion, but I'm also thinking, okay, Ed, even after this type conversation, we seem to be totally misaligned, and I want to know just where we are. But let me ask you, Ed, you and I are different in some ways, and that's all good. I live on the East Coast, you live on the West Coast. Our cultures are a little bit different. Our states are not a whole lot different in terms of political alignment, in terms of our governors. But let me just ask you, Ed, very openly, what I just explained, my approach to you, I have discerned that you just cannot support the change I think is necessary. But I'm very interested in knowing what you think, why you think, Ed, and is that approach workable, agreeable with you, or might you suggest something totally different based on who Ed Cohen is?
Well, I appreciate that lead-in and format-based reasoning. Uh, I am in the role of responding to you. So let me say that I want to learn more. I am thinking that the approach and the change that you want to make uh, could be good, but I don't understand uh, the reasons behind it sufficiently to wholeheartedly say, yeah, let's go. So that's why I'm reluctant.
All right, and Ed, I'm of the opinion that as long as we can have a dialogue, there's at least the possibility we can resolve any differences of opinion. And so in this case, Ed, I'm not necessarily asking you to 100% agree with me, but in this case, I am of the opinion, and let's just say that you have confirmed that you so vehemently disagree with the change that you might openly within the company try to undermine what I'm doing so that I cannot, or at least you would make it very difficult for me to institute this change. Now, what I would hope to be able to do is move you up one step, if I could use that term, or slide you over one step, whatever the term may be, to where you would not vocally oppose me. That is, you'd not try to undermine what I'm doing with the company, but you would rather remain silent. And so what I would try to do is try to encourage you, try to persuade you, inspire you to not vocally oppose what I'm doing, but rather, Ed, could I encourage you just to remain silent and not verbally attempt to undermine what I'm doing? And so I would hope that I could at least get you to that point. If I can, then I would say, Ed, we can still continue to work together. However, if you were so obstinate, if I could use that term, or so definitely opposed to it, no, you're going to continue to verbally undermine what I'm doing. I would believe, Ed, would have to get to the point where I would have to discuss, well, Ed, it seems maybe we can no longer have work together in this company because my values are, my reason to institute this change are, and it seems you vehemently oppose everything of what I want to do with the company, which might translate to you verbally oppose me as well. Ed, I'm very interested in learning how you're processing what I'm saying. And again, Ed, I would ask you, based on your personality, could that approach work with you such that even if we have to, even if I have to make the unpopular decision, Ed, I'm not sure you can remain with the company. Can we at least not depart being adversarial enemies and opponents with each other?
Yes.
And I think, Ed, that is an approach that I would take if our values do not align and you would intentionally undermine the company. And I think we're talking about a very, very small percentage of people who would constitute that kind of a person. But I do believe that's the decision we need to make. I need to have the resolve that I have got to keep the company's values, our reputation with the local, international, the national communities, and so forth. If I allow people to be in my company who would openly undermine, maybe even denigrate the character of other people, that is not what my company represents. And if I can clearly determine you do not support those values, those character traits, and so forth, I would tell you, Ed, I think I need to make a decision, Ed, whether you want to continue with our company or not. And what I'm going to try to do is persuade you to say, and when I say try to persuade, if we have determined that our values are so misaligned, I would want you to say that, well, maybe I can no longer function best in this company, to which I would say, Ed, I tell you what, it seems maybe that would be the best route. What can I do to help you find a company for which you believe you could better serve? And so that's the way, Ed, I would want to depart should we reach the point where, nope, there's no way that we can agree with each other and you would verbally undermine the company and do what you can to disrupt my reputation in the local community. I'm talking about the extreme example, Ed, but in some cases, I think that's what needs to occur.
I'm supportive of what you've just said and agree.
Now, Ed, I want to take this to what for some people might be an even more difficult level. Let's take this to the family level. And I know factually, because we've interviewed people for our podcast, and I have a podcast we call Overcomers Overcoming. I have interviewed several families who have had to make the very, very difficult decision, son, daughter, based on the lifestyle you're living. Could be drug addiction, it could be any number of things. I'm going to have to make a very, very difficult decision. In the case of being a parent, your mom and I are going to be heartbroken over this. But because of the way you are, because of how you have harmed the family, maybe physically, but at least whatever it is you're engaged in, We just cannot have you in the house and maybe influence other people. It's and there are some people who would say that son, daughter, you are taking up. You are necessarily having causing me to dedicate 95% of my attention to you because of your drug addiction, because of your alcohol addiction, whatever it may be. I've got to make, and let's just say, and I know factually this has happened to some people, the son has they actually literally put a fist to the father, the mother, somebody in the family, and that's a result of their drug addiction. The father has said, it's a very difficult decision I'm having to make, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave the family. Now, with that very, very difficult decision having to be made, I would want son, daughter, whoever the person is I'm addressing that with, I want you to know I'm waiting on the other side for you when you recover from whatever you're going through. I want you to know this is not permanent, but it is a decision I necessarily have to make because I cannot risk the possibility of you adversely influencing other people in my family. Therefore, I'm going to ask you to leave the house, or there have been instances there's been the knock on the door. I need more money. I need a place to sleep. And you've got to make a very difficult decision right then. If I say yes, because I'm emotionally involved, if I say yes to this, I might be enabling that behavior that has caused this situation. And although emotionally I want to give this person a warm place to sleep or something of that regard, to say yes to that might be enabling that poor behavior. Ed, that's one of the most difficult decisions we could ever make. And I do know some people have had to make that very difficult decision with family members. But I want to encourage our listeners to have the resolve, whether it's a corporate decision, whether it's family, whatever the level, have the resolve that you are acting on whatever the decision is you've made. You feel that you can adequately explain why you're making the decision you are, even though it is unpopular. Ed, I'm talking a lot, but do you have any kind of reaction or response to either of the two levels of conversation I'm addressing?
It's almost breathtaking. So I'm impressed by your depth and width of understanding, uh, uh, being aware of and defining clearly what needs to be done. Well, what is, and then what needs to be done.
I think one of the things you just said, it's in a single word, but it's so very, very important, aware. We must be aware of the total surroundings of whatever is happening and the various acts, the various things in which people are engaged. It could be the wrong circle of friends, it could be a manner of speaking, but we must be aware of the actual or potential influence a person can or is having on our company, our family, whatever it may be. We cannot I would say, dismiss somewhat flippantly or just turn our back to it because, Ed, I'm a believer that whatever actions, whatever activity, whatever behaviors we accept, that becomes the new standard within the family, the company. We have got to uphold the higher standards. And I am very, very aware of how difficult sometimes maintaining that higher standard is because we have got to confront. And when I say confront, I want our listeners to know I am not speaking at all of being argumentative or combative. It's just a matter of, no, we need to address this. And I hope I can address this in a very civil way to where you and I can have a very honest conversation. And I am not going to get to the point where I want to seek retribution with you. I don't want to anger you to the point where you would want to seek retribution with me. I will tell you right now, I'm seeing that happen too often that it could, the retribution could be a fist to the face. It could be you at the end of a knife, the end of a gun barrel, something like that. I'm just seeing too many people who are seeking retribution. And I am right now, I feel very compelled. I feel a calling to address having civil discourse to where we do not encourage retribution, to where we are seeking retribution through physical acts of violence. I just want to do what I can, Ed, to help inspire that. And I know very possibly the person who has the bent to seek retribution may never listen to me. It's possibly those who are somewhere in the middle of the road that may be the ones that would have the influence. Ed, I'm at a point where I'm trying my best to discern what is the best way to inspire and encourage civil discourse with those who might have the propensity to seek retribution. And I'm not here to say I know the best way to do that. I want to listen to a lot of different people to know the best course of action to take to hopefully be a catalyst to inspire changes in behavior with some people.
Well, this is clearly reflective of things that are going on uh, within America right now. And the eruption of violence is, well, it's heartbreaking, but it's also scary.
Ed, I agree with everything you're saying. And for some people, some would say, "Boy, somebody, somewhere, sometime, somehow needs to do something." And I can speak somewhat in a trite way, but I feel as if my calling is Ron Cooper. For this moment, your name is somebody. I need to do something. I need to do whatever I can. I am not here to say, Ed, that I'm going to go viral across the nation, around the globe. I just feel I've got to do whatever I can do to help assuage, help reduce the amount of retribution that some people have. And I will tell you that I think the worst place we can look is in our elected officials at the government level. That right now, as we are recording this, we're in the second day of a government shutdown. There is finger pointing, blame. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I'm just at a point where, Ed, I'm nauseated by this kind of stuff. Let's determine how we're going to resolve this. And yes, we have vehemently opposing opinions and so forth, but we have got to learn how to get together in somehow, some way to help others live civilly through this. And bickering, I mean, yes, we can bicker. And Ed, if it got to the point where you and I would vehemently disagree and figuratively or maybe even literally pound the table, fine. But I can never get to the point where I would seek retribution against you physically or otherwise. We've got to stop short of that point. But we've got to learn how to be able to negotiate with each other. We've got to be able to learn how to have that civil discourse. And Ed, as you said moments ago, it seems we are way off the mark with some people. And I know as I'm talking and saying all this, there's some people I would never be able to persuade otherwise, but I would hope that maybe through some people somehow we would be able to reduce the animosity, reduce the level of retribution some people would seek. And I may never change ideologically some people's opinions, but I would hope that at least they would not seek retribution. So that's a lot of where I am.
So what comes to mind right now, and this is a conversation between us, we're friends, and doing this voluntarily and knowing fully that this is a live broadcast recording session. Hearing you say all of this and imagining people being in this position personally, I'm brought to this point. The family, the parents of the killer of the Turning Point leader
Yes, Charlie Kirk.
and the shooting of those two people in Minnesota
Yes.
uh, and recent shooting at a synagogue last night somewhere, I forget where. But
Yeah, it's in Michigan, I believe.
yeah, and then shooting in the church a week or 10 days ago. This is
Yes.
crazy stuff.
Yes.
And so the disgust is evident. The disgust you're feeling and you're talking about, plus the can do, fix it attitude that you have lived by in your own life, it's all coming through in this discussion of thinking about the problem, and it's time people do something about this.
Ed, I will say in
I'm
that,
totally on board.
no, that's and I will say in that context, Ed, awareness. I use the term frequently, data points, as I listen to people talk, and I'm genuinely listening. And I would say something to the effect, Ed, it seems you're saying, did I hear you correctly? And I just want to make sure I'm processing what you're saying correctly. If I can pick up on, I call it data points, but I'm aware of, wow, that comment, that statement, that might that mean something even beyond, Ed, I am the kind of person, and if I were an FBI forensic specialist, I might be able to speak factually that these people who seek retribution and do something illegal almost always leave a trail that they have discussed with someone. They can gain a following. It may only be 2 or 3 people, but my experience is there's rarely is it this person acted totally in isolation, literally did not speak to anybody. They just formulated ideas on their own. They don't search the internet for anything. I have never known of a situation like that that has occurred. They almost always leave some sort of a trail. And where I'm leading with this comment, Ed, I know as we choose to engage with different people, that we might be able to pick up on through our awareness some isolation, some comments that, well, that's that I think it'd be good to just ask a little bit more about, and then can we become appropriately involved in other people's lives? And I want to be quick to say I am not an advocate of being a neighborhood snitch, whatever the term may be. And I'm not saying that everybody's got to act like and do what Ron Cooper does. That's not my point there. But I would hope that we can stop short of seeking retribution to where that retribution might take the form of we need to eradicate the Ron Coopers of the world who think that way. And so hopefully I'm not talking in too grandiose hyperboles, Ed, but I would hope that we'd be able to pick up on different data points as I use that term and thoughtfully engage in other people's lives. And we just might be able to talk a person down from seeking retribution to where, yep, you have cared enough about me to help me work through whatever's troubling me and so forth. But I do know what I'm saying is what is happening in the mind of some people.
So tremendous conflict out there is what we're seeing.
Yes.
And uh, um, the divisiveness, big word, the divide out there in communities, whether it's north, south, east, or west, it's seemingly everywhere in some form. This is a mental health issue as well. There's a lot of issues here, but I think at the pinnacle, at the top, it's a mental health issue, and how do you deal with that? And
Ed,
the people want to psychologically save life.
no, you're
So,
exactly right.
so
And
I
Ed,
don't, I don't want to be afraid of walking down the street here in downtown San Diego to the market.
no, you're right on. And Ed, you and I have discussed in previous broadcasts with you. I, for the first 2 decades of my life, had a very poor mental health. Never to the point where I would seek retribution of, annihilating someone's life. But I had some very negative thoughts, and I think I know the reason for that. But there are some people who have a very poor mental health for whatever reasons. And if we can pick up on those kind of through conversation, again, I call that a data point. We might be able to pick up on statements people make, and that's reflective of poor mental health. I'm not judging anybody, labeling, stigmatizing. I just know it happens. We may have a very negative thought about a whole range of topics, and I know that a collection of negative thoughts can result in other things that can be synergistic with those negative thoughts. I'm a believer, and I'm not a certified therapist, a psychiatrist, anything like that. I do believe, though, but as I am willing to listen to other people, I can pick up on various parts of conversation. And as I choose to be willing to engage in another person's life, I might be able to help them overcome a lot of the negativity that's in their life that, left untouched, could result in something, some form of retribution. And to any trained therapists, psychologists that are listening right now, I am not certified in that. I'm just giving you my personal life experience.
So let's turn to problem solving on role playing again. The issue of course correction, internal course correction in the family or in the office. How severe is the gap that you are envisioning in this storytelling? Is it about taking care of a certain customer in a certain way that will impact the direction of the business potentially? That kind of thing?
Oh, I think it could be, Ed, that let's just say I'm working with a customer who is really upset about whatever it is. I'm not delivering the service that I said I would, at least that's their impression. I would want to know, what more can I do? Now, I do know there are some people who are seeking retribution in the form of, and I have spoken with restaurant managers. There are people who will come in and they will complain always about the food service, the food, how it was cooked, anything like that. And that manager knows the reason they are complaining about it, the retribution they're seeking is, I want a free meal. I'm going to tell you, there's a load of hair in my food or something like that. And so I know that if I were a restaurant manager and this person came in frequently and continues in this kind of behavior, I might have to ask this person not to come back to my restaurant because I know what their motivation is. They're seeking a free meal. It is very possible that if I have a service organization, I maybe just pick HVAC just because that comes to mind, that various people may say that, well, you did not do, and so forth and so on, and they're constant complainers, and I will do what I can to try to be reasonable with these people, but there may be a point at which I'd have to say, Ed, it appears I just cannot satisfy you because everything is working right with your equipment. Your expectations of whatever are not reasonable. We can't even get there. I'm trying to think in hypothetical terms, Ed, but I do believe that these type things from a service organization, you might have to reach a point where I'd say, I have done everything I can. And yes, these type people might make some very negative statements on a Google review or something like that. I would hope that I could overcome, maybe even I may have to go to legal means to remove negative comments because this person just wants to eliminate my business from the community. So I know these kind of things happen, and I may be going off onto a tangent of what you just said.
Well, I'm just trying to be the voice or the ear and the voice of the audience out there who will be viewing this someday, soon.
Yeah, and it's Ed. It's unfortunate that we do at times work with people who are so negative in their thoughts, and it's to me it is could be a factor of mental health. Again, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze other people, but I do know that there are some people who are chronically negative about other people, themselves, and so forth. And these type people do exist, and these type people will do. I know of some people who are just this way, who will do everything they can to undermine you personally, Ed. And it goes back to my original premise. I will never consciously denigrate you, your character, anything like that. But there's some people who don't care the smallest whit if they denigrate my character, my company, or anything. They have got to satisfy themselves. And that to me seems to be part of what retribution is. I need to satisfy myself.
So on your website, thecooperculture.com, will people find this kind of um, approach within that website?
Well, and yes, to that, Ed, that we work with businesses to help you develop a culture to where we are psychologically safe. And we've talked about that numerous times. I will help you, I'll work with you to develop a culture to where I want you to be very free to discuss anything and everything. I will never seek retribution against you for anything in which we may disagree. Now, I will stop short, and I will, one of the founding values of me, my company, those we help companies develop, is we'll never consciously denigrate the character of other people. That is an inherent value we want to instill in families, company cultures, and so forth. Yes, those kind of things you will find on my website, and we do work with companies to with half-day, full-day workshops where we help companies develop that type of culture within their corporations.
So there's a playbook.
It's a playbook of sorts, and yes, and so what I do is work with companies to determine where they are. There's not one pattern, one training that fits every company, but rather I work with them to determine where they are, where they want to be, and if where they are is not where they want to be, I'll work with them to develop a strategic path to help them get to where they want to be. And where they want to be frequently is a matter of culture. It may be a company is not able to retain as many people as they want. Again, I've stated numerous times, statistically, it'll cost a minimum $65,000 to replace a person based on loss of productivity, acquisition costs, and so forth. And so companies want to have, and we work with companies to develop a 90+% retention rate, and we can do that when the culture is right. They know the leadership within these kind of companies know the value of their people, and many people, again, statistically, stay with or leave a company because of people, less so because of pay. And so when the people and processes are in place, the profits will logically follow. And if you're a not-for-profit company, everything works together toward reaching your goals.
This has been dynamite conversation, Ron. So thank you for being on Global TV. And in a summary statement, I welcome you, invite you now to take this to the to resolve. What do you want people to do here?
Ed, I would hope that we can create, if necessary, create, but at least be a catalyst to help others develop the mindset where we want to be able to engage in, have civil discourse, debate, whatever the term may be. I'm not saying in anything that we're talking about here, Ed, that your opinion is wrong. I just want to know what you think, why you think that, and if we radically disagree on, we'll do so over conversation, after which we'll go to lunch, breakfast, we'll go get out on the basketball court, the football field, or whatever. But we agree we will continue to work together, even though we may vehemently disagree on whatever. You and I have talked about it before. What are peripheral issues versus core values? And if your core value is or your thoughts are that, well, I've got to seek retribution, then we can address that sometime later. But many times it's peripheral issues that can lead to civil discourse or seeking some sort of retribution. I just want to be a catalyst to help people overcome that type of situation to where we can be a very positive influence on people. And again, Ed, I've said it before, as long as we can have a dialogue, I'm a believer we can always resolve any differences we may have.
Thank you, Ron Cooper, and audience out there, give us your feedback. My
Thank you,
email,
Ed.
you bet. My email is editor global business news, all one word, editor global business news @gmail.com. And Ron Cooper's website, thecooperculture.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.